If you read the Night Izuku story, that's good. The lore of the world stays the same, but there is an alternate future. Instead of being rescued by Izuku, what would happen if you were sold to Endeavor as a gift for his son, Prince Shoto Todoroki? Argo and his wagon arrived in the kingdom of Atlas, ruled by the cruel king Endeavor. A secret messenger made his way over to Argo. Apparently, the king is looking for a beautiful doll for his son. So Argo brings his wagon around the back to an isolated part of the castle. They waited until they heard footsteps coming from the tunnel. Out came the cruel, cold King Endeavor. Your Majesty, Argo bowed in respect. Hurry up. I don't have time for this. You better hope you have a doll worth my time. Because if you don't, it'll be the end of your career for you. The king threatened. Of course, Your Majesty. We have a wonderful line of pretties today, Argo said as he pulled out machine. We all came out oblicity, but you could see them tremble where they stand. Endeavor looked over off to them, somewhat impressed by the man's collection. They were indeed all beautiful, but he only accepted the best of the best. He showed off all of his slaves, and Endeavor was unpressed, till his eyes landed on you. How much for the last one? Endeavor asked as he pointed out to you. Oh, you've a good eye. This beauty, definitely a fine specimen. She's worth around, perhaps, 9,000 gold, Argo said as he brought you forward. Endeavor dropped a large stack of gold as he grabbed your chains. The king that ordered his servants to give you a bath and dress you and you'd find your clothes. Once that was done, he automatically locked you in Shoto's room. You, beyond nervous, you'd snuck in a strange place with people you don't know. You didn't even know who this Prince Shoto was, or what he's like. The door opened sadly, and steps in the prince. His mismatched eyes quickly found you, and they held nothing but coldness as he looked at you. Who are you? Shoto demanded as he pointed his sword at Yin. I am Yinlin. I was brought here, Yin screamed in fear. Was it my father that brought you here? And judging by your appearance, you must be a porcelain court holder. Does my father really think you can buy my respect by buying me a doll? Shoto spat. Yin shook her head and backed away as she could. Shoto glared daggers at her as he sighed in frustration. Don't talk to me and don't touch anything. Follow the rules and we won't have any trouble, Shoto said as he simply went to bed. Yin sat on the ground, sad and alone. Months went by and your relationship with Shoto really got better over time. You shared a few words, exchanged some pleasantries, but he only really ever gave short answers. He started bring her new clothes, books, and started talking to her more. He eventually opened up about his problems and his relationship, and the relationship with him was further. He was able to release whatever it was in his chest to you. You were more than happy to help him in any way you could. He was less cold and angry over time. He became more gentle with you as well. As months went by, I became closer with this porcelain girl. She was sweet, kind, and patient, the very traits that I lack. Over time, I asked her if I could feel her skin. She nervously agreed. When I held ugh, when I held your hand, it didn't feel like skin. It felt like porcelain, but it wasn't cold. It was very warm. She had very soft and gentle hands. I learned that she was from a very small village, and her friend from that village. She had a deep love for plants and flowers. She wants to open a flower shop at one time, but life didn't seem to want her to go that way. I've been enjoying her company. It is a nice change from my father's, but nowadays, every time I look into her eyes, I feel my heart flutter in my chest uncontrollably. One day you notice a beautiful music box placed on a pedestal near his bed. It looked like a golden carriage, and on the inside was the head of two figures, a porcelain groom and a bride on the inside. If you want to imagine what this is, it's kind of like the Cinderella carriage when they get married. Shoto eventually asked why you were staring at it, the music box, so intensely. You explained that your father was a craftsman and that he would make beautiful music boxes like these too. That's my mother's favorite music box. A good of hers made. Oh gosh. A good friend of hers made this music box, he explained. So please don't touch it. It's the only one I have left of her. Eventually, a maid came in Shoto's lunch. She happily placed Shoto's plate down in front of him while she glared daggers at me and simply handed me a small sandwich. I could tell she was in love with Shoto, even though Shoto didn't seem to share the same regains. The maid was indeed very beautiful. She had beautiful long curly silver hair, sapphire blue eyes, and beautiful fair skin. She was lucky that she didn't have a porcelain quirk, but the quirk was terrifying. According to the other nicer maids, Charlotte was what the maid's name was. Her quirk allowed her to silence people. If you knew something she didn't want to get out, she would use her quirk to keep your mouth shut about that specific secret. Nighttime eventually came and Shoto was already getting into bed. I don't know what came over me, but I don't know why I said it. Good night, Princess. Oh my god, Princess, holy moly. Good night, Prince Shoto, I blurted out. Shoto lost his coldness in his eyes and smiled softly, then simply laid back and mumbled to good night as well, hiding his blush as much as nothing had happened between us. I still feel so lonely. I miss Momo. I hope she's doing well. Down in the castle, in the maid's quarters, Charlotte was livid. She was Shoto's personal maid since they were young, and over the years, she fell madly in love with him. Eventually, she became disillusional, thinking that they were the one true pair, and she would do anything to get rid of those who looked at him in a way that might suggest them stealing him from her. So she was not all that happy to see you spending time with Shoto. She needs to get rid of you, and she knew how she was going to do that. Morning came and Shoto left his studies. You sat in his room reading a few books that he brought you from the library. As you did, the door suddenly opened and Charlotte walked in, her eyes piercing into your eyes. She was up to something, and that made you worried. You think you can take him from me? Charlotte said in anger. You don't have what it takes to be with him. I've been with him through thick and thin, and he belongs to me. I'm the only one he can depend on. I don't want any trouble, Yin said as she backed away. You think you're so great with your porcelain quirk. You can remain young and beautiful forever. Well, I will grow old and ugly, she said in anger. This quirk is a curse. I'd rather be quirkless than stay young and beautiful forever. This quirk only brought me pain and sadness, Yin argued. Of course, a peasant like you think that way. You don't know how good you have it until people lose their love and affection for, because some imperfection you have. Maybe I should crack you and ship you like this little music box here, Charlotte said as she with a crooked smile as she picked up Shoto's music box. You tried pleading with Charlotte not to break the music box, but she tossed it at your feet, and you watched it shatter to a million pieces. Before you could do anything, Charlotte used her quirk to keep your mouth shut about the truth of the music box. Then she left without another word, so you sat there, compilating, mentally preparing yourself for the trouble and do you were going to be in because of Charlotte's quirk. You'll never be able to tell the truth. When Shoto did come back, his eyes were full of emotion. Anger, sadness, betrayal, and the most terrifying one. He left side, started glow with his fire as he slowly stepped towards you. Why? I trusted you. I opened myself to you, and you destroy something very important to me? Did everything we share not mean anything to you? He shouted as ice started to cover the room. I tried to back away, but a wall of ice froze up behind me. He took a step forward. A small chunk of ice flicked at my face, leaving a large crack on my right side of my face. Beginning crack hurt beyond my imagination. It was like my flesh beginning to rip apart or my bones breaking. I cried out in pain, but Shoto didn't care. He stood in front of me, only a few inches from me. I don't want to see your face around me or my castle. Guards, take this woman to the dungeon, he ordered. As I was being taken away, I crossed paths with Charlotte's eyes once again. From the corner of her eyes, I could see her smirk look on her face as she watched me leave. I was taken to the darkest place of the dungeon and locked away. There was no windows and no light except for the single candle, but there was no guards, and I was alone once again inside another cage. It's been 5 months since I locked her away. A good craftsman was able to put the pieces back together, but it was forever cracked. We were never able to cover it up. I feel bad. My anger boiled within me. My mother's music box was forever damaged and can never be restored fully. There you are, Shoto, my personal maid called out as she wrapped her arms around my neck. She was the only one who has been with me throughout my life. She always seemed to be by my side, while the other maids avoided me. Why are you so sad? She asked as she gave me a peck on the cheek. It's none of your concerns, Shoto said as he kissed her hand. She, the only one who never left my side or betrayed me, unlike everyone else who did. Don't worry, Shoto. I'll make sure that girl pays for the disrespect of your mother's music box and memories, she said as she left me alone. Something didn't sit right with me. With what she said? Yes, she's been with me for a long time, but I never told her about the music box and its importance to me. I also never told her about Yin destroying the music box. There was only 3 other people who knew the importance of this music box. That would be my father, Yin, and our spy, Edshot. Edshot has eyes and ears everywhere. His job is to watch over the castles, make sure there's no evil plots among the staff and such. He would sniff out the traitors if there were some among in the castle, but I knew right in the middle of the day he would most likely be with my father, discussing business and such, so I waited until afternoon to call him. Charlotte quiet made her way into the kitchen and grabbed one of the rusted old and dull knives in the back. She smiled darkly at the old blade as she slipped it into her back pocket. I'll kill anyone who stands between me and my beloved, she thought to herself. You've called me Prince Shoto, Edshot said as he kneeled before me. Yes, I did. Where was Charlotte a month ago? On the day I sent Yin into the dungeons, I asked him. Well, she was doing her normal routine that day, but she did take a detour to your room during the afternoon. I thought it was odd since that was when she would head to the kitchen and bring you lunch during your studies. So I followed her and saw her enter your room. She looked angry and livid. So when I heard her talking with the porcelain girl inside, I couldn't entirely hear the conversation, but all I could hear was Charlotte say, maybe I should chip and crack you. Sadly, the king called me and I had to leave. I'm sorry, Your Highness, but that is all I know of what happened. She did not look happy and proud of herself when the porcelain girl was being thrown into the dungeon, Edshot explained. If Yin didn't break the music box, then why didn't she say anything? I asked in disbelief. Maybe Charlotte used a quirk on her when I wasn't able to watch. Charlotte's quirk is silence. She can force people not to speak the truth if they really wanted to. I'm sorry if I didn't tell you this event. I thought it was just Charlotte's another jealous affair. Edshot apologized. Another? Yes, this isn't the first incident, but the king tells me not to worry about her. The king saw her as a scapegoat. The servants and staff were too busy fearing her that they won't think of raising against him. So I never said anything. Charlotte has done away with people in the castle before, mostly people who got close to you, Edshot said. This was all Charlotte's fault. Why people turned away from me, why I was betrayed by my friends. It was all her doing. Then her words echoed in my mind. I'll make sure she pays for the disrespect she's done. She's going to kill Yin. It's been 5 months within the dungeon. Food, water, and other necessities were very not fluent. But most of the time I was visited by a nice maid by the name of Mina. It's thanks to her that I'm still sane. I was pulled out of my thoughts when I heard footsteps coming. I looked up as fear shot through me, and Charlotte stepped into the candlelight. She had a crazed and twisted look on her face. She was constantly giggling about something. My love, Shouto isn't happy with you. He's not happy that you broke his porcelain music box. So I'm here to exact his revenge. This is the end of the line of you. She laughed maniacally as she held out her knife. Sadly, I was too tired and malnourished even more. I couldn't defend myself. Even attempting to move away from her hurt so much. Being in this state made me even more fragile than normal, so I simply closed my eyes and accepted my fate. I waited for the blades to come, but it never did. Did a cold A cold wind blew past me. I opened my eyes to see Charlotte stuck in a chunk of ice. I was so that I was saved but lost conscious afterwards. I slowly opened my eyes to see I was in a large bed and surrounded me with a bunch of carts with food on it. Yin, you're all right, a familiar voice squealed as she lightly hugged me. Mina, where am I? I asked her. Oh, you're in the guest bedroom, and by orders of Prince Shoto, I'm your personal maid to help nurse you back to health, Mina said happily. What? What happened to Charlotte? I asked nervously. Oh, you don't have to worry about her anymore. It turns out Charlotte was a love-obsessed psychopath. She was threatening and harming other staff members to leave Shoto alone. She was trying to isolate him that she could be his only emotional support. But now that they found out she was banished from the castle for good, Mina explained, I entered the room and I was happy to see that Yin was awake and well. So when she saw me, I saw nothing but fear in her eyes. I asked Mina to excuse us for a moment, which she happily obeyed. I'm sorry for my behavior. What I did was very unbecoming of me. I've come to ask for your forgiveness. Fix what I've done to you, I said as I looked at Ian's cracked face. Memories rushed over me as I remembered that I was the one who gave her those cracks and chips. All of her right side of her face, which oddly enough looked like my burn on my left side. I guess we are both damaged now, but what did not make me feel any better? I forgive you, Your Majesty, she said with a nervous smile. As time went on, it was a very slow process of regaining her trust. Slowly, we regained the feelings we had. Over time, we eventually got there, and when my father stepped down, I made her my queen. Sorry for all the interruptions, but I had to deal with my bunny, and I do have to say, I probably wouldn't have messed up so bad if I didn't have a concussion today. So, yeah, oopsies. So, thank you guys for listening, and hope you enjoyed. See you all later, my lovelies.